Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast. We're coming to you live from Cole Creative in downtown Wilkes-Barre. I'm Rich Howells. I'm the founder and editor of NEPA Scene.
I'm John Popko. I work for Time Shamrock Communications with Rock 107, Alt 92.1, and ESPN Radio. And I'm also the Saturday night host of Alt Natives on Alt 92.1 from 9 to 10 p.m.
And tonight we're here with AJ Jump, local drummer for bands like the Underground Saints, 5%, Indigo Moon Brass Band, and King Radio, and the co-owner of Karl Hall, the brand new all-ages music venue in downtown Wilkes-Barre. You might have saw our article about that a couple of weeks ago. So if you have any questions or comments about this new venue, if you want to learn more about it, if you want to know more about AJ, if you want to, insult us, by all means, you could jump in and say what you want to say. Leave those comments right down below, and we'll get to them at some point in the show. So it's much more fun when you guys interact with us. So by all means, jump on in and join our conversation. I think we're also streaming on Periscope on Twitter as well.
What?
So if you're more of a Twitter fan, we started doing that a couple of weeks ago, just kind of quietly rolling that out. So if you happen to have Twitter instead,
Periscope.
by all means. Yeah,
I don't even know what that is.
well, it was actually predated Facebook Live.
Yeah, it was like better. It was like that was first.
Yeah.
And then it like went away. Facebook started their shit. And
Yeah, Facebook kind of took over with that, but they kind of went backwards with it, where they really pushed it, and everybody started doing it all the time, and then they're like, oh well, now we're not going to let anybody see them. So, speaking of which, if you like the show, if you enjoy what we do, please share this live stream with other people as well. Usually the longer you live stream, the more people you can build up. We were streaming for about 4 hours last night at our the first week of our open mic and talent contest at the V-Spot. And we had probably 20-some, 30 shares or something like that, a whole ton of comments and stuff for 4 hours. Only reached 1,400 views, which tells you how hard it is to reach people with the live streams nowadays. So.
Does this have an FCC delay on it?
It has a few second delay, but not an FCC. We can say the fuck word if we want.
I was gonna say it's a potty mouth. Could he be a potty mouth?
You absolutely can.
I don't know. My mom might be listening, and she'd be like, "Why did you talk like that? That was ridiculous."
I'm a rock star, Mom.
Yeah, sure. Bullshit.
Well, before we get to the interview, we do have some beers to pop open from Beer Boys in Wilkes-Barre. What are we drinking?
Well, before we get to the beers, I do want to mention that Beer Boys now is doing live entertainment on the weekends.
That's right, yeah.
Wow.
And Friday night is a band called Always Undecided. They will start at 10 o'clock. And conveniently in the middle of their half-price happy hour from 8 to midnight. So
They haven't done music there in years.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, seriously.
So
Yeah, they just started that up again. And and it's funny, it ties in perfectly because Always Undecided was the band who won last night.
get out of here!
I swear.
I had no idea
That was not planned whatsoever. Wow. It just so happened. It was a close victory. It was by one vote, but
Wow.
but they they played all last season. They really got a ton of enjoyment out of it. They were in the finals. Didn't make it, but this time they're kind of even more determined. So they came in all firing on all cylinders.
very cool. Yeah, so Beer Boys, North Washington Street, Wilkes-Barre, half price happy hour Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays 9 to 11, and Fridays and Saturdays 8 to midnight. That includes half off shots, mixed drinks, drafts, bottled beer, canned beer, you name it. So, and they have 72 beers on tap, and they gave us one from Oscar Blues. It's the Dale's Pale Ale.
All right, I've had that one
That's a
before.
good one.
The Einstock White Ale, which is very good.
I don't think I've had that one.
And the Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy. So
Leinenkugel's always pretty solid.
yeah, that's Summer Shandy. The weather's trying to break, I think,
Yeah.
finally.
Hopefully.
But Mr. Jump, what would you like to have?
I'll do the Dale's Pale Ale.
All right.
I haven't had it in a while. I'm surprised they didn't give you anything local. No SBC? Come on.
They typically do.
Yeah, a lot of times. Most times they do,
They've
actually.
been, the last 3 weeks have been all local.
Yeah.
They gives Benny, SBC, North Slope,
Berwick.
Berwick is
They've given us that in the past.
I shouldn't talk. The only thing I drink there now is Natty Boh. They got it in the cats. It's the best. I like shit beer.
Well,
I do. I'm not a craft beer guy. I was when I was underage
Yeah.
in college and thought it was cool. And I like it, and it's good. But I want to drink a shitty beer and a really good tequila.
Well,
That's just what I like.
well, AJ, you and I are
Priorities.
going to do a little throwback towards the end of the show.
Wonderful.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, wonderful. I like that. Me and John have known each other a very long time.
Very long time.
Yeah.
Cheers, boys.
Yes.
Definitely.
Cheers.
I'm interested
Thanks
to.
for.
Mark Keisinger's calling me right now.
Oh, Mark. Just talk to him on the comment section.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, we'll really.
on
Yeah.
Facebook Live.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jesus. Just who uses the phone for phone calls?
Well, that's
Right,
like
call
that's
us.
like DJ Hirsch every day, whether it's Facebook Messenger, whether it's Instagram Messenger. I'm like, Frank, listen, just text me, brother.
Yeah.
I don't need this. I'm not on this stuff
Yeah.
all the time.
I'm not a big fan of the Facebook Messenger, unless it's like with you and Brittany, we're talking about the show or whatever. But
Right. Yeah, I use it for very certain things.
Yeah.
This is good.
is it?
But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. You know what? The problem is too is everyone demands instant access to everyone else.
Yeah.
Without realizing that they have lives and jobs and other things, and if you don't get back to them immediately, they get super pissed at you.
That's
like
true.
I messaged you 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. That's
Why haven't you responded? It's like
Yeah.
because I'm working, doing
And
other
it's
things.
funny too, because if you're on Facebook Messenger, if you don't respond to that, they'll go to Instagram.
Yep.
They'll go to your text messages.
But if you
Then
have
they'll
the,
comment on a post saying, "Hey, I sent you a Facebook message. I hope you got it."
They will. They will razz the
but
shit out of
if
you.
you have the person's phone number, why the hell do you even do any of that?
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
Go
just
right to the
text
source.
message them or send them an email.
That's how we figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. We texted each other. We didn't go on to a third party, which is weird. It's like I'm not even going to say what I was just about to say. But anyway, go ahead.
So we also want to mention our other sponsor, the V Spot, one of the most popular bars in northeastern Pennsylvania with live entertainment every night of the week. This week they have Eric Ruddy tonight, Mike Doherty on Thursday, Mountain Sky Orchestra on Friday, great bunch of guys. Nowhere Slow on Saturday, who we had on the podcast before. So if you haven't seen that episode, that was a really good one. You should go back to our archives and check that one out.
Rick's a great dude. All
Yeah.
those guys are great dudes.
And interesting interview too, like really good answers and everything, which I always appreciate. And
No pressure.
DJ Huff is hosting karaoke on Sunday, and then of course NEPA Scene Rising Talent, our open mic and talent contest, is back for 12 more weeks. Last night was the first week. And, to be honest, I was like super nervous about it because usually the first week it's really tough getting people.
Sure.
And then everybody comes the last like few weeks. Mm-hmm. And then they get frustrated because they didn't get into the finals or whatever. And it's like, where were you guys 6 weeks, 7 weeks ago? You could have gotten in then. We had the best turnout we've ever had for the first week of any open mic series that we've done. I think this will be the 6th or 7th one at this point. And this was definitely the biggest opening that we've ever had. We had 19 performers last night. So it was a long night. It was a good 4 hours plus of entertainment, which if you tuned into the live stream, thank you for checking that out. But you should really come because a Facebook video is not going to do any justice, especially on my cell phone. To what you see in live performance. And it's great to hang out with everybody and have a good time and network and stuff like that. I mean, that's really where the most value of the whole event comes out of. So definitely check it out on there. As I'm getting a Facebook message while we just ranted about that.
Is it from a person that you know, though?
Yeah, it is at least somebody that I know, yeah. One of our writers, actually.
You tell him to text you.
Email.
Or email. Actually, if it's a writer, yeah,
comment
email.
right now. Comment
right now.
Share the
On the
fucking
show.
feed.
Yep. And Keith Perks too. Now I'm getting bombarded by them. I really jinxed myself tonight.
Well, it's definitely on purpose. I'm sure I got a couple already.
Yeah. Our last sponsor we want to mention is our newest one, the second annual Jim Thorpe Independent Film Festival. Really cool event. Second year, obviously, this event features more than 90 cutting-edge films from around the world, including dramas, documentaries, horror, sci-fi, LGBTQ, experimental, and grindhouse movies. The festival runs Thursday, April 12th through Sunday, April 15th at the Monchunk Opera House in Jim Thorpe. So if you want to learn more about that, it's jimthorpeindiefilmfest.com. We'll have some posts coming about that in the coming weeks as well, so you can learn more about it. They're about to announce all the films that'll be in the festival as well. So super interesting little event and very different from around here. You don't see too many of these types of things pop up. There's a few here and there, but it's cool that Jim Thorpe is getting in on the action there. All right, so now that the plugs are out of the way, let's get to Mr. Jump, which, you know what, it sounds like a stage name, and it's not. That's the funny thing.
So for so many years, I've had to give people my ID when they first meet me. Or people don't know. They just, oh, that's AJ. And 7 months down the line, 5 months down the line, someone will go, yo, Jump. And the other person will, like, look puzzled. Like, what the hell are you talking about? They're like, well, that's his last name. It's like, no, it's not. I've worked with him for the last 5 months. It's like, yeah, man, that's my real name. And then I have to bring out the ID, and they look at the ID, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
it was Giampa. Changed at Ellis Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Italian. So, you know, and they Americanized everybody's name back then.
Right.
Like, they told my great-grandfather, well, here it is. It's Jump now. So, thanks, great-grandpa. Appreciate it.
A little easier.
Yeah, well, it's way easier. Definitely, but, you know, it's definitely, it's an interesting one. I'm not going to knock it. It could be way worse.
It's memorable.
Yeah, my last name could be, like, Diarrhea. That would not be cool at all. You know? I was like, oh, Steve Diarrhea. That's great. Like, nobody. Imagine being in high school with that name.
You gotta be careful too. Like when we were picking names for my son, we would like try and figure out how can kids make fun of a name.
Oh, sure.
They're brutal.
Absolutely. Definitely.
So why did you choose the drums of all the instruments you could have gotten into?
Honestly, my sister, I remember it vividly. My sister was playing the clarinet in the grade school band. Now you had to be in 4th grade to be in the grade school band and then on up. So I think she was in 5th or 6th grade. I think it was 6th grade at the time. And I went with my mother to pick her up at Bishop Hoban. We went to St. Nick's, and I went in the band room, and this kid that we grew up around that lived like in the development like next to ours in Plains, his name was Dave Burns. He was playing the drums. I saw him in the room, and I was like, man, that's cool. And I always thought he was, you know, when you're younger, a cool kid, you see, you know, at Little League practice, oh, there's that, you know, that cool kid. He's cool. He has the cool BMX bike and all the cool shit. And you just think the kid's awesome, so you want to do everything that kid's doing.
Sure.
So I'm like, man, you know, I really like that. I like those drums. They're cool. And then a couple years, fast forward to maybe like a year later, came time, 4th grade, and I was just like, I want to play the drums. And I remember a couple different people telling me, well, you know, you only start on this pad. And I was like, I don't care about that, man. This is what I want to do. And I remember, you know, just getting into it and, you know, have my drumsticks and my drum pad, and then I got a snare drum. And then I begged my parents for a drum set for Christmas that year, and I didn't get it, and I was crushed. I really was. I was pissed off. I was just like, that's all I wanted, man. And they're like, well, maybe, if you stick with it, and they're all about, because drums are expensive. You can't
Right.
rent them like a clarinet or a saxophone. Like, hell, I really wish I fucking played the saxophone, because then I could just ride my bike everywhere. I'd get rid of my car immediately, and I would just either hop rides with people to gigs and whatnot. But hell, it ended up being the drums. My dad always said, you should have played the harmonica. I would have said the saxophone because it's cooler. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, and then the rest was history. I remember then I said that Christmas, well, that birthday. My grandmother, my nana, my mom's or my dad's mother bought me my drum set because I hounded her. I was like, they won't buy me a drum set, and this is what I really like. I just hounded
Your
her.
parents love that.
Well,
Headache.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, and my mom will say this to this day. She could tune it right out. It never bothered her. I'd be in the basement. Like 7th grade is really when I started like playing. I'd be down in that basement 2 hours a day, just slugging it out, figuring things out. Just I took private lessons too, but you just want to figure things out. And that's just what I did. And I still to this day, she said, I never minded it. I tuned it out, and they've always been supportive, of it. But yeah, I was just always attracted to that instrument, and then just obsessed everywhere I went. I remember early on in that process, I got a pair of brushes for the first time, and I put them in the car. We were going to see Billy Joel at Wilkes. He did a question and answer show where he played a little music, and then he talked a lot. He's actually playing his 50th straight sellout tonight at Madison Square Garden, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw him a couple months back with my mom. We're big Billy Joel fans. But anyway, I put my brushes in the car. I'm like, maybe he'll be like, man, I don't have any drums on this. I could raise my hand and be like, hey, man, I'll come up. I can play a little drums for you. I was just obsessed with it. And
You never knew. Yeah, you never know.
no, you don't. And that's what with teaching today too. It's like, you can tell, like with teaching, you could tell the kids almost right off the bat that are going to grasp it.
Right.
It's not really a thing that develops over the years. Like, the talent does, but the love for it, it's right away. Like, you could really tell when you got a young guy that's focused in, 10, 11 years old, and he's just all about that. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. It's cool because it brings you back. You think like, damn, it's so innocent, and like you said, you never know. You never know, and the sky is the limit. I mean, you're gonna take a lot of beatings in this business. There's no doubt about that. But that's, especially nowadays. Like, I know, guys who grew up and their fathers were drummers, and in those days, and it was more of their side gig, And nowadays, it's like, people, they'll go after things heavier and harder, but there's way less promises. In the 60s and 70s, if you worked at it, you were going to get a record deal. You were going to be given the opportunity. Nowadays, it has shrunk beyond belief. There's not much money in it. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it. It's just, so you have to love it. You have to love it, I feel, even more today than ever. Because you're going to get less chances because there's less to go around,
So what were some of the earliest bands that you were in? I'm sure you've, I listed a bunch, but there's probably even more than that.
Well, there was one called Osiris. That was my first real actual band.
Yeah.
Now, I played with some other very good friends of mine earlier on. A gentleman by the name of Paul Vinton. May he rest in peace. He was one of the most incredible guitar players I ever got to play with. I went to high school with him, and we went to Berkeley together too. And he went on to the master's program at Juilliard, studied with Wynton Marsalis. I mean, he was just absolutely incredible. That was one of the very first people I got into jazz with. Got really, really heavy into jazz, like late, like 8th grade, 9th grade. And then one of my good friends, Brent Evans, who just recently passed away as well. He was the first person that I ever went into a basement with and played some music with. And it was, you're a kid and it's like, wow, he's playing these chords and I'm playing this beat behind him. And it's like, oh, wow. It's like the first time you're like with a girl. It's like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, could I do this for a living?
I like that about houses, yeah.
That's it. Like, man, if I could do this for a living, this would be unbelievable, And, but Osiris was the first band. A couple guys from Myers High School, a couple guys from Bishop Hoban. We all met through some guys in grade school that ended up going to Myers, and we all sort of played soccer together too as well, and we just kind of came together with a love for music. My man Joe Miller, me and him, just started shedding in the basement, and then got with a couple other guys, and we brought them in, and then it just turned into something. We used to play at the old Redanos in the back room. Now, some people remember it, some people don't. And I remember too, there was a transition there. Me and Frank just talked about this not too long ago, and he had this good sized back room, probably about 200, 250.
That big?
It was.
Sad.
Because they cut it in half then. And I remember, right when we were playing, the third show, it was like, what happened? They cut half the room in half, and we're like, oh man. But it was still cool because we'd still pack it out and it would be fun. But they were show days were the best. We'd go and we'd rehearse in the morning. We'd all get breakfast at Michael's Family Restaurant. We'd go, we'd rehearse all day. People would be getting high, all that shit that you do when you're a kid. And
just a kid?
And we played the Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead and Fish and Mo. The jam band thing was really, really big then. But then we also were, like I said, getting into jazz. We played a Miles Davis track, and we had some attempts of writing some original music too at that point. But that was the very first get paid. We're playing people's Sweet 16 birthday parties and playing Redanos to 200 kids, because Metro at that time was over at Sterling, so that scene was a little bit older when it was there, just a little bit, not much. I feel like when it went over to South Main, it got a little bit younger. It was, and then home base as well. That was a more all-encompassing, younger scene. But we mostly played at Redanos, and then we played at Murray's too. And I remember that too because we were all underage, and we were, it was cool because we get to play Murray's. There were so many bartenders in this area. I remember when I turned 21, they're like, man, I just never even thought of it. But the funny part is I never drank, man. I never abused that privilege because I was in there playing and they were giving me money. So why would I fuck that up? Why would I go and try to, I always thought about that. I was like, nah, I'm not, some of the other guys would, but I'm like, nah. Plus I don't drink when I play. I don't like to. I never did. I never will. Yeah, it's work, but it's also what I love to do. But, I just never a fan of it. Yeah,
you want to be completely in your right mind. When
absolutely,
you're doing it,
yeah. It's just a different process for everybody, But yeah, take a shot before a big show or something like that. That's different for, as Kiesinger would say, one for the nerves. Gentlemen, let's just have one for the nerves. But yeah, those were the those were the good old formative years of learning and getting ripped off, like playing a gig, and it's like, well, there were 200 kids here. What do you mean we didn't make $1? Like, what? We had to rent a PA. We drove in this truck. We rehearsed all day.
Oh man.
And like just shit like that. But that's growing up, and that's something that's I'm sure leading into maybe questions you further have. But that's one of also the reasons why I'm starting this venue, is because that can't go away, especially here, because there was such great history here. You remember about No, I'm not. Rich, where are you originally from?
Scranton.
Okay, so you weren't really tied into a lot.
Not as
there.
much, Like I definitely, went to some Metro shows and stuff like that. But I was more connected to Scranton than I was Wilkes-Barre at the time.
No, right on. I mean, hey, we are connected, but they still are worlds away for some people. I mean, 13 miles,
especially when you don't drive. Like I didn't drive.
Sure.
I didn't have a car until I was in college. So by that point,
Exactly. But I mean, that's like I'm saying, the whole point. Like I remember those years, and I said to Frank, like Frank said to me, it's cool that you're doing that, because that we had that place, and there were so many cool things that came up out of it, and that's those are the exact memories that I want to make there as well. That given not only kids but other great bands that are from here.
Right.
A good foundation, a good home base, a good place to say, this place is about music. It's not about booze. It's not about making money, even though people have to understand I have to make money to keep the place open. Right. But I'm not, I'm not worried about that. I don't care. This has become a second job for me, and I don't even care, because it's just what I love to do, and it's what I love to be around,
And before we get into that, you mentioned you went to Berkeley, so you're not just some kid who's banging on the drums in a basement. Like you were highly invested in this profession or this trade or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, it's
trade. I mean, it is very much like a trade, especially in jazz music.
Right.
People don't like. I was an apprentice to Marco Marcinko. I went everywhere with him, just like you would as an apprenticeship with a plumber. I went to the gigs with him. I wasn't getting paid, but I got to meet the people that he was playing with. Sometimes, if he had another gig, I would go and I would set his drums up at Tinks or whatever, while he was at another gig. When the Bent Blue Days, they'd be opening for somebody. I'd go down, I'd set the kit up for him, because he was up maybe either at State Street, or he had an earlier thing, maybe out in Stroudsburg or Delaware Water Gap, So that was like, I learned so much from that, and got to meet so many incredible people. I mean, Pat Martino, Mike Stern, like those are two of like legendary jazz musicians that I got to hang with and drive them around, but I wasn't getting paid for that. But that's all part of like the learning experience, and the apprenticeship of the trade. That's how you learn. You just have to immerse yourself and be around it as much as you could possibly be around it.
So, I mean, you were kind of instrumental in a lot of bands that people know around. No pun intended. Underground Saints, the 5%, things. Bands that were pretty big in the area that did a lot of cool things. What would you say was kind of was there a definitive band for you? Was there something that stood out amongst the rest as like the big project or something?
To this point,
yeah, to this point,
it was the King Radio project without a doubt. But also, I mean, I also play. I'm a studio musician, and I do tracking for Brett Alexander when he gets a singer-songwriter that he works for and they don't have a band, or like I just got to record one of probably the coolest albums I've gotten to record. His name's Joe Burke. He's a younger guy, originally from Pittston. I actually have him on the very first show, the first night, solo. Incredibly smart dude. His songs are awesome. I can't wait for people to hear him. And it's...
Did you have him play at record store day?
Yes, I
last year?
did. Yes, I
Because
did.
the band backed out. And
Exactly.
told it yes.
And I
that.
had met him when I had got back from Oregon, but like him, my man Bob Oxblood, Bob Anderson, aka Bobby Raw, he was the guitar player in Something Corporate and then founding member of Jack's Mannequin. He played in Tommy Lee's solo project. He played with John Legend. He played guitar with him for a while. His solo album is about to come out the end of this year. I did that in Cleveland with Jim Wirt, who Jim Wirt produced, mixed, engineered one of your favorite bands, Incubus. Yeah. Jim did 2 or 3 different Incubus, Science being one, and I forget the other one. It was Science, and then the one after it, and then I think a later one. But
Make Yourself.
Make Yourself,
Yeah.
definitely did that. So those are really exciting projects that I'm excited that are coming out. But the King Radio album, was unbelievable. I mean, that's the ceiling. I got to work with Jim Scott, who, Grammy for Album of the Year with the Chili Peppers, Californication. Grammy for Album of the Year with the Dixie Chicks. Grammy for, rock performance, Foo Fighters. I mean, the man, he mixed the first half of those last Johnny Cash sessions and did all them. He was Rick Rubin's right-hand man forever. Sting's first solo album, toured recording Springsteen in the 70s for the Record Plant. I mean, the list goes on and on. Jim was incredible to work with. I mean, Wilco, did all the early Wilco stuff, some of the later Wilco stuff. AC/DC, Rage Against the Machine. I mean, the Sound City documentary, he's in it. He's the guy that talks about the console, and then they bring that console and they record with Paul McCartney, that is. Sir Paul. And that's Jim sitting behind the board, because that was Jim's workstation. He recorded there more than anybody. He was the house dude. Tom Petty Wildflowers. I mean, you open up the insert jacket and there's Jim talking to Tom, wrapping a cable up. So to get to work with somebody like that, it was amazing. We were in LA for 10 days. Me, Mark and Justin did the basic tracking the first 4 days we were there. And then it was just like school. Some of the overdubbing stuff I'd go in the morning, then I would head into LA, see some people, come back out, hear what was done that day, and we'd have dinner, and he would just tell these stories that were talking about he felt Johnny Cash when he walked in the room, for the first time. It was so heavy. He's the dude was just. They have him sitting there, and I'm sure one day we'll be able to hear this. They'll do some sort of 50th anniversary or something like that. But they had him. It was just Johnny, Rick Rubin, and Jim for 4 straight weeks, and for 4 or 5 days a week. Jim said that Rick had him play every song that he knew that wasn't his. So he sat there, he's playing Miss American Pie and Beatles, Hard Day's Night. They have him recorded playing all these covers. And he's like, I guarantee you that's going to come out one day. And going to be something crazy. That people didn't know, that Johnny Cash was such a huge fan of all these other artists that he didn't even sound like or was reminiscent.
Yeah.
But that record was just so special to me. The songs are incredible. I still, stand behind them and will put them up to a Pepsi challenge with anybody. This business is very fucking brutal, and people need to understand that you can make the best record in the world. It doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. You have to have the machine behind you, and you have to have that manager or that publicist that gives you that little break. And then that little break happens, and then another little break happens from that little break. And then that little break. And then somebody like Alan Stone hears you and says, and you happen to just got on the roster with, whatever agency. And then, Alan Stone says, oh man, those guys are on there? Oh man, I'd love to maybe have them open for a couple of shows. And then you get that little break. And like all these things just start snowballing. The overnight from the club into the tour bus thing is total bullshit. It does not happen anymore. The world of the music business is not American Idol. And to make people think that, it bothers me a little bit, that people think it's just that easy. And I don't want to sound like I have a chip on my shoulder because I love what I do. Yeah. But it's tough, man. And we put our heart and soul into that album. We spent a lot of money on not only recording it, but we had a serious publicist. We also had distribution. But, at that time, the agency that we were trying to work with, they merged with another huge agency. And then, the person that was loosely managing us, his connection, he left. So then that was out the door. Then, we almost got a deal with Vanguard. And the A&R was like all about it. And then they took us to dinner and all this shit. And then we get a call 2 weeks later after we're like, well, what the hell's going on? And they're like, nah, they pulled the deal. And then we find out 9 months later it's because they got bought by Concord. And they couldn't tell us at that time, like, hey, guys, this isn't going to go anywhere because we're about to get bought out. Which a lot of people don't know. That record label was owned by the Welk family. Lawrence Welk's grandson ran that label. And they had this huge back catalog of stuff and a publishing company. Lawrence Welk bought a bunch of Elvis's stuff, a bunch of, Fats Domino, all this stuff, and they just created this catalog and they created this publishing company. Because there's so much money in that, whether it's commercials, TV, movie. Sure. And so Concord really liked that they had this big, Vanguard had this big back catalog. So they bought them out. But it's like, it's nuts. But the moons really do have to align. You really have to be lucky. And you just have to keep plugging, really, too, That's it.
So many bands that I've interviewed over the years, big bands and small bands alike, have very similar stories to that, where they were so close to a deal, or they had a deal, and then it disappeared because they got bought out by somebody else, or some record company went under. People don't realize all the business end of things. That's, I think, the what you're trying to stress here a little bit is that it's not just being good, but you have to have all the right business things fall into place.
Absolutely. It's I've heard it said many different ways, but it's like 25-30% music and 75-80% business. It's all about who you know. Like, for example, like my man Bob, they're about to go on tour. Andrew McMahon, Alan Stone, Zach Clark, Bob Oxblood, and they're doing like 90-some dates. They're playing literally every A and B market, and some 2 nights. And Bob, once you have had those connections, and their connections came from those early days of playing college shows, and all those Jack's Mannequins fans are still all there. They're all there. And they remember that, and they're faithful to it, because those guys went out and they hustled colleges at the time when rock music was big in colleges.
Right.
They still and they had that little pop punk thing in them a little bit too, and so they could go out and do these tours, and they still are able to, they have these connections, and they made a lot of people money back then. If you make somebody a lot of money and you ask them for a favor 10 years later and they're still doing that business, chances are they're going to help you, because if they're good in this business and they're still doing it, that means they did something right, or they fucked somebody. One of the two, which kind of sucks. But that's the thing. It's like, if you get that break, if you get that toe in the door,
yeah,
you can make headway, even 10 years later. you know, because it still matters because you connected with those people. You played those clubs. You did the meet and greets. You didn't act like a fucking cool dude. You acted like a real person that loved what they did. And it pays off. It does, you know. Yeah, it's nuts. And you really do. You have to love it to keep doing it. It really has to be inside of you. And the people that do it for the wrong reasons, they get weeded out. And a lot of people see through them too. You know what I mean? And yet some of them, that was one thing that Jim said. I was like, I asked him, who are the biggest assholes you ever worked with? And he didn't even have to think about it. And he was like, you know, Sting was the biggest asshole. He said, but you know what? I gave him a pass, and so does everybody else, because he's so goddamn good. But still, for every one of them, there's 300 other guys, like a B.B. King or, you know, like a Chris Martin or somebody like that they're good people, you know, and they're there for a reason because they treated people well, just like, you know, just like you would want to be treated. And yeah, I'd much rather take the good dude than the asshole any day. There's, you know, in jazz they always say, give me 4 assholes that could play, you know. I don't like that, you know. I'm just like, nah. Give me dudes I could hang with and have a beer with. Yeah. You know, because it always ends up being personality, you know. Over all the bands I've been in, you know, that's the other thing. Like, it comes down to personality. It's never, it's personnel. Neil DiCastro used to say that all the time. It's always personnel, man. It doesn't matter about the talent. It's always somebody's personality gets in the way. Right. You know?
So I love 5%. I loved Underground Saints. Loved King Radio. But my favorite band that, unfortunately, I don't know what happened.
I know what you're going to say. You know? I already know you're going to say ends with disaster.
That's the one, yep.
Yeah, and see, there's another thing where, you know, I don't even know what happened. We made this really, really, really cool indie rock record in Brooklyn.
I still have it.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, awesome. Never came out. It was right around the time, it's right around the time when the Swims and Finnerty and Craig's band. She gave me the wave. What band was that?
The Money Notes?
No. Before that. What's the wave? Someone chime in. Who was that band?
The Cold Town now?
No. That's Chris Carney. Someone better chime in on that because I'm just having a senior moment. But that band was awesome. But yeah, we made this cool indie rock record. Mark Marshall helped us out in New York, another great guitar player from this area, and it was so much fun, and it was just honest and
you, Bob Lewis, Kevin Callahan,
and Andy. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
And it was fun, and we played. We were playing shows at Metro right before, the end days of Metro. Yep. You know, Bob has another band, and he's back there, and I'm playing there again. And it was fun. It was good, and it came down to money, man. We didn't have any money to put the record out, and it just kind of was like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where, you know, and
what was the name of the band again?
Ends with Disaster.
Ends with Disaster. Okay.
And yeah, it just it sucked. People had to make money, and there was no, you know. Just I don't even know. And then Kevin then moved away really recently after that.
Yeah, he was in Jersey, I think, when you guys started that project.
I think so, and that kind of threw a little, you know, just a twinge in it. But we were still doing things. But yeah, that was a shame. I mean that was really fun, and that's. Like the one who got away. We all have that girl, like the one who got away. I really think, because that band came out at the perfect time when like all the indie rock stuff was like really popular. And, it really hitting, and it's killing me. No one's saying who that band was because I remember Brian Quinn said that because that band had recorded, and let's see, did somebody text me it? No.
Who was in the band?
It was Brian Craig, Brian Quinn, Pat Finnerty, or Mike Quinn, not Brian Quinn, Mike Quinn, Pat Finnerty, and Mike, the other guitar player's name was Mike something, I think.
Did Brian? what band did Brian Craig play the Spoons in?
I don't know.
The
Spoons?
the
Money. That was the Money
Money,
Notes.
that was Money
I thought
Notes.
you meant Brian Langan. Yeah, that was the Money Notes.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at the Scott Kucharski. If you are watching, you remember this band, and I'm having this complete brain fart right now, and I can't remember because I remember Mike Quinn was like, "Yeah, well, we have a record that we never got to put out. Maybe we'll." This was like a year or two later. He was talking about Lewis, like maybe we'll put it out together. I remember that was like a possibility, but it never came out, man. And yeah, that was a fun band. A lot of people did like that band. You know, there was some cool things. That was the first time I ever recorded in Brooklyn, ever.
I feel like that happened quick too. Like, it was like you're going
It was
back
overnight.
to personalities. It was just like you guys
It was.
got in there, banged it out. You had like 4 or 5 song disc, and it was like I still have. I don't know the names of the tracks at all. I don't think. I think I created them based off of the words in the song. But yeah, I still have that. I listen to it every now and then.
Yeah, it is a good one. So do I. Because it pops up on my computer, and I'm like, the one that got away.
Yeah.
That's the only time I ever recorded an album that never came out.
Okay, Patty.
Yes. Okay, Patty.
Matt Main coming through.
Oh, Matt, thank you. Jesus. God damn it, how did I forget? Okay, because
Thank you, Mang.
they used to call Pat Finnerty Okay Pat. Everyone called him Okay Pat at that time. Oh, man. Great band. They were awesome.
They were great.
Totally.
So now you're talking about the business end of things and saying how tough it can be or whatever. So what makes you want to get into the business end of things technically in a way?
Two different
world.
businesses. Yeah, everyone wants to play. Everyone needs someplace to play. The record business, pfft, I would never in a million. With somebody that says like, "Yeah, I'm starting an indie label," or "Yeah, I'm opening a recording studio."
Yeah,
that's good. More power to you. You better have $1 million. Or you better have been somebody that people know. Like, for example, Tall Paul from the Badleys. He just opened a studio called 8 Days a Week in Northumberland. And I haven't been there yet. I need to go there because I have to actually pick up this cabinet that Brett is letting me, gifting to the venue, Brett's old Marshall cabinet that he played in the Badleys days, like all the arena tours and shit. But like Paul just opened this great studio. But see, Paul and Brett, people know them. They created this thing in the '90s, and people know those guys, and they got a lot of returning customers. You know what I mean? And they're both of them are able to sustain that because they're really great at it. But a kid straight out of college, it's like nobody knows who he is, and he has the gumption. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but you better have a lot of money, and you better know a lot of people because. Yeah. But that's the thing that there's, people kept saying there's nowhere around here to play. There's there's very few places. There's nowhere, and I just thought, I played a lot of these small clubs all through the United States. I've been there and done that, and I know what people like and what people don't like. So why not give back to this area and put something here and fill a void where, and also for some of the younger bands, like, no, this is how it goes. Like, this is a stepping stone. You play here, you get really good, and then you go to New York and you're not going to be surprised because we're going to treat you the same way that Rockwood Music Hall or Mercury Lounge, would treat you in New York City. And I want it to be the same way, just like opening a restaurant. I dabbled a little bit in the restaurant industry in Brooklyn and out west, and the chef that I wasn't cooking, but the chef that we worked under, she was the owner. Her name is Jean Adamson. She was the sous chef at Per Se. She was one of the first women sous chefs, to work under that serious of a Michelin star restaurant in New York City, and she was just no bullshit. And that's the thing, like, you're gonna come here, you're gonna play a great show. We're gonna make sure that the sound is as great as it possibly could be. Mm-hmm. All the instruments, great drum sets there to play, real deal professional bass rig, professional guitar amps and cabinets, tuned professional upright piano. It's all there for you to play, just as if you were to go to New York or LA or even some places in Nashville. And that way, if you don't make that much money playing your 45-minute set, it's still like, well, we didn't have to load anything in. We could sell our merch, and we know we're going to sound good. It's not going to sound like garbage. So it makes it more worth it. Because at that level, there's not much money in original music, Like, and that was the thing with Ends with Disaster. We weren't a cover band. Right. And we were all in other cover bands at that time. But we were not a cover band, so it was like we needed to, like, put in our own money to it. And the Underground Saints, we started as an original band, but then we also played out and played covers because there was still a good amount of good gigs to play around here where we would get paid, $1,000 to play. And that's how we were able to make our album, because we played these cover shows, but we would mix in, we'd play 45% original music. We would mix it in with the covers. We did that all the time. Just like, before that, Bent Blue did the same thing. But yeah, I mean, as an original band, it's like, yeah, there isn't much money to play, but if you could go and play your own music in front of, 50, 60 people that are there to see you, not to drink and get drunk, not to party, right. Not to talk to their friends because it's the cool thing to do. No. You come there, it's just like you're going to the Kirby on a smaller scale, or the Scranton Cultural Center on a smaller scale. I don't want to compare it to Montage because outdoor shows are a little bit more of a party atmosphere, especially when you're in the lawn.
Sure.
It's like, shut up. I'm here. I'm old now. I will never sit in the lawn again.
Yeah.
There's no reason
to. Sit in the lawn.
No, unless you give me a free ticket for say Dockin, and my buddy's like, come on, I'll drive you up. We'll get drunk. This will be funny.
Yeah.
I'm just not sitting in the lawn. But that's the point. To come, why would you pay to get in? And BYOB, you bring your own beer, bring your growler, whatever.
Go to Beer Boys.
Yeah, go to Beer Boys and get your growler. And, go to City Market. I'm sorry, I have to do the shameless plug for my boy Christian.
Well, you know what? I don't know what you're doing with that. Are you taking a break from drinking?
No. I'm just.
You're not.
I'm talking a lot.
You're missing out on this nice Einstock white ale from Beer Boys because it's almost gone.
Yeah, this is pretty nice.
It's very good.
I like this. So the what I'm getting from what you're saying too is that we put on rose-colored glasses when it comes to a lot of those small little venues that maybe weren't the cleanest, maybe didn't have the best sound, maybe didn't have the best organization, that kind of thing. You're already coming into this knowing all of those kind of things and kind of correcting it before it even happens. You're creating better sound. You're creating a nice clean. I mean, the place looks great. It looks it's beautiful. It looks clean. It looks nice. And you're setting these people up for success as opposed to, all right, everybody loan in at the last minute and we're going to make changes to the bill right now, even though you just showed up 2 seconds ago and all that kind of stuff. You're trying to get rid try to head that stuff off at the pass, so to speak.
Well, sure, because I understand how it's supposed to run, even at that level. There's
Yeah.
no reason why it can't run like that at that level, because there are other places that do it, you know?
Right.
There are other places that take pride in a show that only has 60 people at it, but it's only because it can fit 60 people.
Yeah.
I love that. I would, and that's what I said about, like, Montage. I would much rather see my favorite band at the Kirby Center than see them at Montage, because... And I always say, when you're putting that many people out there, besides McCartney, Springsteen, and like U2, those are 3 shows that I've seen in massive stadiums. Massive stadiums. Now, there's arena shows, I still feel there's still some of that intimacy where people do shut up and people aren't. But, like, when you go see Springsteen and you're I was at Giant Stadium and everybody's there like this and singing and you're like, holy shit, this is like at that small level. They took the bar or the club and they made the club that big, you know, where
Yeah.
most of the shows that you see at those amphitheaters, they're like one big party.
Yeah.
And when you get to that level, you know, and the business gets in the way, and you got the other, companies that want to make their money and sell beer, like, $17 for a 14-ounce. We think that's fair. What? Seinfeld used to do that joke.
Everyone's getting drunk in the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. Seinfeld used to do that joke about the tuna sandwich at the airport. Tuna sandwich, $9. We think that's fair. But yeah, I mean, there's something about, if I'm gonna pay and go to a show, I don't want to be bothered with horse shit. I'm there to see that music.
Right.
I'm not there to drink and party. And there's a time and a place for that. Don't get me wrong. There are certain bands that are more of that atmosphere, and that's great too.
Sure.
Like NERD, holy shit. If I ever had the money to throw like Party of the Year, Karl, I would hire them in an instant, because that was like one of the most fun acts I've ever seen ever.
And someone asked, is this the place on North Main Street? So this is Karl Hall,
Yes.
North Main Street, Wilkes-Barre.
57B, which means basement.
All right.
North
So
Main Street.
Marion, yes, that's the place you're thinking of. Karl Hall, North Main Street.
It's the
Wilkes-Barre.
Polish Union building?
It's not the Polish Union building anymore. A group of investors purchased it last summer, and it's called the Union Building now.
Oh, okay.
I will also let you guys in on a little something. There is a new coffee shop that will be in that building.
That's smart.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Sooner than later. Actually, it should be in April, opening up. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be called Pour. Gentleman from
Get it?
Scranton. So that's going to be really cool. It's going to be, good, not chain type coffee shop, which I really feel downtown Wilkes-Barre needs
Yeah.
that.
That'd be a cool spot, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
a great idea.
So that's cool. And then, of course, Ron Russo, Gina Russo, 570 Tattoo is there, one of the best in the region, without a doubt. And there's a couple other things that are going to be happening in that building as well. Believe it or not, there is a incredible boardroom on the second floor of that building. Like, honestly, it looks like a room in the White House. It does. And everything is original 1938. The table, the boardroom table, the chairs, everything. It's just like,
That's awesome.
it looked like someone locked the door 40 years ago and no one ever walked in there, and we walked in and we were just like, what the hell is this? It's like a complete time capsule, like pre-World War II. Like, that's crazy, Yeah, it's really,
There's a lot
really
of
cool.
stuff in the city that we don't realize.
Or they knock it the fuck down.
They're not the fuck down.
Exactly.
Tear
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a big problem around here.
Now, you're opening this venue in this city of downtown Wilkes-Barre. Obviously, Wilkes-Barre doesn't always have the greatest press. You know, we just heard that the Sterling site might be developed into the hotel that it's been talked about for years or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, what drove you to say, all right, you know what, downtown Wilkes-Barre is where I want to be. I believe in this city. I believe in this community. I'm going to take this. It's essentially it's a risk. At the end of the day, it's a risk.
Sure.
What you and your partner? What?
By the way, my partner is Mary McKenna, one of my very dear friends. I'll probably take this off of a question off of you. It's called Karl Hall. It's named after her late husband, Kevin Karl, Karl. That was his last name. He was a very dear friend of mine. We worked at Gallery of Sound together when I was younger, and he passed away 4 years ago this coming month, April, and just one of the best dudes ever. Incredible voice, great piano player, and Mary also very incredible voice. And they used to play in a country band together back in the day. They got to open for Johnny Cash and a couple other bigger country acts, Dwight Yoakam, people like that, at the Bud Light Amphitheater. We all remember that up at Harvey's Lake, which I saw.
Light?
Yeah, or
It was a Coors Light.
no, I think it was the Bud Light Amphitheater. Yeah,
Okay.
and I actually saw my first concert there ever. Steve Miller Band. It was amazing. It was incredible. But yeah, Mary's awesome. She lives in Philadelphia. I couldn't have done this without her. I told her that I was going to be doing this. You know, I came back home and she saw me and she said, "What are you doing here?" I thought you said you were moving somewhere else. I was like, well, I was going to go to LA, but I found out that I think I have this good opportunity to do this. I know these people that are purchasing the building, and I've always thought about doing this. I put the plan together, and when I told her that, she's like, I want to do this with you. I'm going to give you the money to do this. And I was like, oh, well, okay. I didn't. That thank you, and I can't thank her enough.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You said you never know, and I thought about doing this, when I was 50, but this is when the opportunity arose. So
probably better now than when you're 50. A little more energy.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, look at Keith Richards, man. He is
well, that's
I mean, that dude is, that's a modern marvel of science.
Yeah. Summer Shandy for Beer Boys.
Yes.
Up next.
Let's do it.
We have to get through this, and then your surprise comes out.
Oh, okay. My surprise.
It's not my penis.
Thank God. Now we'll hit up some questions. Katie Emmons says, "Will there be comedy shows there, and who do we contact to talk about that?"
Absolutely, info@karlhall.org. I'm working on that right now with a friend of mine, Alan Peterson, who he also has a friend in the wings that is a professional comedian, and we're working on that now.
Okay.
I'm hoping to get that up and running for mid to late summer. Right now, it's the band submissions just came flooding in.
Sure.
So I just hit the ground running. But the comedy thing, we're definitely doing it once a month. That's definitely going to happen. I think it's important, and it's going to be fun. I mean, believe it or not, there's so many comedians in the region between Philly here, New York, the Poconos that are dying to play. Other small places, because there's the places that they have in those cities, but a lot of them are very hard to get slots in, and even some of those people that get slots in those clubs would want to come out in front of a different audience like this. I mean, for crying out loud, I don't know if you guys know this, but they used to test Broadway shows in Scranton back in the day.
They did.
Yeah,
They did
and
know
people, and if they didn't get booed, they'd put them on Broadway. You know,
people always say, if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, and it's really the old saying actually went back to Scranton, was if you can make it in Scranton, then you can make it in New York. A lot of people used to say, because the vaudeville shows, the Broadway shows, the singers, everybody came through Scranton first because it was a working class area where people really, if they were putting down a few cents to see a show, that was the last few cents they had, and they worked very fucking hard to make that show happen. So if you weren't good, they would boo you right off that stage.
Sure.
So you had to be good to be there. So if you could make that kind of, and I think that still exists to an extent to this day. There are a lot of shows that I see come through here where, the crowds are tough. It's not easy for them. And, it stands out from other cities.
Louis
we
Black,
still have that
Louis
attitude.
Black said he'll never play here ever again. Same with Jeff Tweedy. Yep. They're Scranton, that was. They both played the Cultural Center.
Yep.
Louis Black left the stage early.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, someone was heckling him, and he got super pissed off. And then after the Scranton show here, Tweedy yelled at somebody,
Right.
and then he talked about it later. He was like, "Fuck that place."
Is it just Scranton or is it Wilkes-Barre too?
It's Wilkes-Barre to an extent, because I remember a couple years ago, Cyndi Lauper was at the Kirby Center.
She's tough, though.
She is tough.
I know somebody in her band.
To be fair, she is very tough. But
tough.
there were people in the crowd who were yelling things, and she went back and forth with them, and that was a whole incident in itself. So I think it happens in northeastern Pennsylvania in general.
We're assholes. I'm kidding.
People like to heckle here, man. I mean, there's a lot of hecklers.
It's tough.
There are some hecklers.
Especially with doing the open mic, we get it sometimes too. Usually the crowds are pretty cool, but every once in a while we get somebody, and they don't like to be told oh, hey, could you keep it down when this guy's on stage or whatever. Then they just get louder and they get more obnoxious and everything. That's why I feel bad for the comedians even more than the musicians.
Yeah.
They have it tougher because you're talking for a straight hour or more. And that's harder to keep people's attention. If there's a band playing, you can kind of go, talk to your friend or whatever, and the sound of the music kind of covers that up a little bit. Whereas people are talking to the comedian, you hear it right away, because it's just them and their voice.
There's no respect.
Yeah.
As a famous comedian once said.
That's true. That's where I got it from.
But I'll reiterate again, info@karlhall.org. O-R-G. Believe it or not, there's a dude named Karl Hall, and he bought the domain, of course.
Of course.
He bought the .com, and then the .net, I was like, .net.org, whatever. Yeah, what years? But yeah, that's why it's .org instead of .com. We could have asked the guy if we wanted to, my web designer, Matt Morgus, actually. Yeah. Matt Morgus, great. He did a great job on the website, killed it, absolutely. But
his company also hosts our website as well.
Yeah, he told me that. Definitely, he's awesome, great kid. Definitely.
Rapid Development, RAPPID. So if you need web work done for your website,
I remember 15 years ago.
I had a website.
I had to throw that in there.
That's for Lolo.
Yeah, that's totally for Lolo. Oh, man. Oh, we just had a nice little inside moment there, folks.
That was good. I felt good, too.
you have shows already planned for next month, too.
Oh, yeah, April 14th is opening night. We have a fantastic, like I said, Joe Burke is opening the show. Incredible singer-songwriter, originally from here. Everything Turned to Color.
Yeah.
Great Brooklyn group. They're awesome songwriting, singing. Just very, very, one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. Neha's incredible. Brian's an incredible songwriter. Kyle's a great guitar player. They're great people, too. They run, Brian and Kyle Weber, they run, own and operate a venue database called indieonthemove.com. It's a database of all the small venues in the United States.
Wow.
Really, really, really cool place to find out info on places like I'm about to open. So, and a great local band called Rosary Guild. They're awesome. I think they're one of the coolest new bands out of this area. And, there are guys that said to me as well, like, I was talking to Will, and he said, man, we stopped playing shows because we don't really have anywhere to play, I reiterated to him that, don't worry, we're going to, this is going to be a great environment, I think, for a band like you guys to grow. So we look forward to that. That's going to be great. And then the 21st of April, Permanence, Alma Mater, and Sean Flynn's band.
American Buffalo
Old
Ghost.
Shreds.
Yes.
He also has American Buffalo Ghost as well.
double?
Yeah, he has two. Yeah, it's two different.
Two different. That's his.
Old Trades was first, and then
Yeah.
American Buffalo Ghost came maybe past year or so.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a super talented guy, and two different kinds of music.
Yeah.
They're all together, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's a cool line. All bands that we've featured on the site before.
I'm excited. Like today, for example, I was on the phone with one of the agents that I'm going to be working with. It's a gentleman from the APA agency in Los Angeles through friends of mine that I know. They helped me out and got me that connection. And in July, Zach Clark and Bob Oxblood will be playing, and they're coming off the tails of the tour that they're doing with Andrew McMahon. So I'm really excited
nice.
about that. That's, they announced that this morning, actually, the whole tour, and there were already some comments about, some of the fans from New York are like, we can't wait to come to Karl Hall. And so I was pretty pumped about that. John, where are you going? You have to piss?
Yeah.
Well, that's rude. You just leave a podcast without saying anything? Jesus. So Aaron Fink's going to be releasing his album.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yeah, he has that coming out soon.
Yeah, we're talking. We're in the midst right now to lock a date down together for his album release, and a whole bunch of other great stuff. There'll be some young, some old, some in the middle. We're even going to be doing some polka. That'll be coming up at the end of the summer. Absolutely. I mean, you gotta.
I mean, that is a Northeast Pennsylvania tradition. You have to have polka.
I want to have a polka party, man. People need to come see what it's all about, and
Absolutely.
gotta have a polka party. There's nothing like the good old Pennsylvania polka, and kind of off the coattails of the Jack Black movie and all that.
Yeah, that's true.
People
Right.
kind of are more intrigued about that now.
Yeah. I mean, we did a whole show about it.
Oh,
People were like thrilled about it.
That's right. I forgot.
Every time we did an article about it, people were just going crazy about it. It's a fun movie. I think maybe it's a little too easy on him. And it makes him look better than he was in terms of swindling people out of their money. But it's a cool movie, and it definitely got. I mean, I've always enjoyed flicking the channels on Friday or Saturday night, seeing Pennsylvania polka on TV, and seeing the old little biddies like bouncing up and down like in a circle repeatedly to these songs. It's just so fun to watch.
That doesn't, and it doesn't really exist in many other places, because I remember when John Smith first moved here, because John Smith, the singer of the Underground Saints, he's originally from Nyack, New York. When he first moved here and he saw that on 44, he was so drawn to it. Like, what is this? He was blown away by it. He just thought it was so like interesting.
Yeah.
Everybody bopping around, and Brett used to help engineer some of those shows at WVIA, and he said they're there Sunday morning, they're lined up ready to get in there and dance. It's great, man.
One of the other questions we got, Frank Nappy, man after my own heart, is asking about metal. He said there's no scene for small underground metal to come through here, or metal bands that are here in the area. Would you consider doing metal shows?
We already have a metal show booked. I don't have the schedule pulled up right now, but a great young person by the name of Brian Kelly. He's helping do some of the booking, and I do know we had the Hill You Die on, and then unfortunately Brian said they weren't able to do the date. They're one of my also favorite new bands.
Oh man,
here.
are they good?
They're so awesome.
Yeah.
Gods of Space, they're playing, and I forget who he just added because we just talked about this a couple of days ago. It's hard to remember all the stuff. Everything's just coming in at me. My email box the last 2 weeks is not. I mean, it's great. I thank you all for supporting it already. You haven't even stepped foot in the place where you don't even know me. I mean, that's great. So, but yeah, absolutely metal. Totally.
Gods of Space, Earthmouth, and Mind Power. Is
Yeah.
that the show we're talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Earthmouth, I can definitely say is amazing. Really cool, like stoner doom metal kind of stuff. In the vein of what Hill You Die On is doing, but they're definitely, they have their own sound and their own thing, and they're great guys as well.
Mind Power's from Philadelphia. They hit me up, and they're really, really nice guys, super professional, and but absolutely, metal's 100%. And I will say this, if you're looking to book a show, please just go onto the website, www.karlhall.org. That's KarlHall.org. And the info is right there, and it comes up, info at Karl Hall. You hit contact, pops right up, info at Karl Hall, and just email away, and we'll get to you in a timely manner.
Let's see, we have anybody else that wants to ask a question? Rob Alapek said earlier when we were talking about the divide between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, Wilkes-Barre and Scranton used to be like Springfield and Shelbyville.
That's funny because Eugene, where I lived in Oregon, is right next to the actual Springfield that really, truly was actually what the show was about. And the Springfield is kind of shitty, and Eugene was the Shelbyville, but Eugene obviously doesn't sound as cool as Shelbyville. But
right.
But yeah, there's a Simpsons mural in Eugene or in Springfield, Oregon, which is and it's kind of. But that's, I mean, I don't know about that. I think they're both. We're biased here. They're both good in their own right, Johnny?
Right.
I think you went number 2.
No, see, I had to leave it like that because the bathroom up here is being redone. So I got to go down
okay.
down halfway the hallway, then back up the steps down.
I know.
Like
Number 2, I would have been much longer. Much longer. That's why I was late tonight.
Rich, I don't know how you're sitting in that couch, because when I first got here, I sat down on that, and I'm like, this thing sucks. I'm sitting up here. You guys you should be sitting, someone should be sitting in that chair.
Host chair.
That thing's awesome.
If you would like to be our couch sponsor, by all means, we would
come
love
on.
to.
I think now
Raymore and Flanagan.
We're already borrowing this space from the wonderful Cole Creative, who are here after hours to do our show every week. So thank you to those guys for
Raymore and Flanagan.
for doing that for us.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, you got your surprise coming.
What's this?
All right, so here's this.
What's this? I know what he's going to do already! You know what, though? Hold on. So, I used to do this.
I brought one for each of us.
Okay.
We're going to be gentlemen about this. Now ignore the Bud Light. No one likes Bud Light.
Yeah, but see, these aren't as.
If you're gonna drink,
These used to not be as good as the other ones. Let's see. Ooh, that one worked nice.
If you're gonna drink light beer in Luzerne County, drink Coors Light or Miller Light. Don't drink Bud Light.
What's her saying? This is a link.
No, don't pay it. He tried to like be proactive and give you the link to the.
Oh, cool. No, I appreciate that.
No, he did a poor job at it.
See, these new lips.
Info :
But I appreciate him doing that. That's my boy.
He tried.
That's my boy. Ooh,
You can't fault him for that, I guess.
No, not at all. These are working good.
All right.
So we used to do this in my apartment.
Yeah.
294 Rudder Avenue, top floor.
Are you still back?
No. I still own it, but I haven't moved back in. Wow, that one. I love how you remembered this.
Yeah.
And you know who I came up with this one night.
Matt Vlesk.
Yes. He had this in his hand.
He's not listening. He's not watching. Fuck him.
Let's see here. See. What, Rich? I know I fingered your beer, but that's okay.
That's all right.
There we go. See, these actually work nice. But yeah, Matt Vleski he was fooling around. He had this in his hand, and he was fooling around with it. And we were both standing by my sink. People were over at my house late night, and he had that in his hand, and I had a can of beer, and I went to open it, and I looked at him, and I go,
Give me that.
I'm like, should we maybe try this? He said, yeah. So then we just started opening them and handing them to people. And it became, cheers, to good memories. To good memories at 294 Run. Oh, Jesus. Rich. God.
This guy
my way.
It's not a college party. Jesus
Good
Christ,
God.
guys. All right, they're going to kick us out of here now.
Yeah, well, we need a paper towel. But that's, isn't that it's the cleanest way to drink a beer.
Yeah, just don't drink Bud Light in Luzerne County. Coors Light, Miller Light, fine. Don't drink Bud Light.
Even some lager.
That's true. But it's the cleanest, I used to say it's the cleanest cauldron to drink a beer out of because it's plastic still. And then this, you don't know like all the stuff that got in there.
Right.
And then pint glasses, they got all that soap garbage on them and everything.
Ah.
So this is why we did this, and you could see how clean and beautiful
It
it
is.
is. It's so smooth. There's no glug glug.
Ah.
It's wonderful. This was my signature for a while. And for all you people wondering, it is not sharp at all. It cuts it perfect at the seam. It's beautiful. Oh God. We got anything else going on here? What time we have?
Mr.
Oh, man.
we should wrap up.
3:30 already.
Mr. Hirsch has a few more. He's calling poor Popko a goon. So sorry, Popko thinks computers are magical machines and projectors called PowerPoint machines.
That's funny.
Somebody had said AJ Jump for president earlier. Kyle Demko, I think, said that. But yeah, we appreciate you coming on and telling us about what you're up to.
Sure.
We actually have a cool event tying into what we were talking about earlier with the NEPA Scene Rising Talent Open Mic. One of the things that we really try to do, one of the things that we stress with is it's not just about the money and prizes. It's about getting gigs. It's about getting out there. It's about networking with fellow people in the scene, that kind of stuff. Our first winner this week, Always Undecided, is a great example where they didn't know anybody, and then they came in and knew a ton of people and found out about all kinds of other people that are going on. Got booked at the V Spot because of us. Got booked at other gigs. Obviously, they have the Beer Boys show coming up as well that we mentioned earlier. All that kind of stuff, and they use our photos that we took at the event to promote themselves, on other shows and their social media presence and things like that. Because bands don't seem to realize you need professional photos. You need photos that make it look good.
Yes, you do.
Not just crappy, blurry cell phone photos. that your friend took in the crowd that night.
Brittany Boot.
You need real stuff. Brittany Boot is a good one to go to if you need those types of things. So we're as part of the prize this year. Once we are completed the 12 weeks, the winner of the grand prize, they get $250 cash. They get 15 hours of recording studio time. They get a lot of stuff that's valuable to the band. But we also are doing a headlining show July 28th. It's a Saturday at Karl Hall. So it ties into what these guys are doing, and we can talk about them every week and try to spread the word about what Karl Hall is doing, which obviously is what we're here tonight. But that's going to be a really cool show. So whoever wins will get to headline that show that night, and then we'll kind of build the lineup around them. Whatever genre they're doing or whatever. Maybe we'll do a mix of music and comedy, which is kind of what we've become known for.
Sure.
In terms of our events and stuff like that. So that should be a cool night as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's going to be cool. Definitely. And I wanted to tell you earlier, I wish I could come. Normally, I bartend on Tuesdays. So maybe one Tuesday I'll be able to make it up there. But for now, I still hold the shift. Good old bartending shift on a Tuesday.
The rag over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Taking care of business.
Well, thank you all for tuning in tonight. And anything else you wanted to get in there, Paco, before we head out?
I don't think so. I mean, I got the surprise out of the way.
That was great. Honestly,
That's awesome.
I haven't. I mean, that comes up every so often, but it hasn't come up in quite a while. And
I haven't had a beer like that since your apartment. Probably 8 years ago.
Yeah, that was a fun place, man. A lot of good memories there, without a doubt. Totally.
Do you have deadbeat tenants, or they pay their bills?
No, they're all good.
Good.
No, they're all good.
It's a nice place.
Thank you. That was a fun learning experience there too, man. But well, thank you guys for having me too.
Absolutely.
This was fun. I had a good time.
Go out and support Karl Hall. Go to their opening gig. It's Saturday, April 14th. Some great bands. The next Saturday after that, April 21st, some more great bands. And they've got the next couple months booked. But email him if you wanna play a show there. But please go out and support as well. It's so important. There's so many great venues around here that died a slow, painful death because people did not go out and support them. And then they did nothing but reminisce about it on social media afterwards about how great those places were and all the great times that they had there. But they didn't go out when it was really important to support those places. And obviously, I think Karl Hall is going to have a long, successful run.
Cheers to that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, so thanks to Beer Boys and the Jim Thorpe
Film Festival.
And the V-Spot.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in as well. Please share if you enjoyed the show. Have a good night.